special guest, Christina Tobin, Chuck Williams as well, so to be speaking about this voting application that we've been working on for quite some time. It's really cool to see that it's actually finally coming to fruition. And it's awesome to be able to bring Christina on and have her share exactly everything that's going on and how we're going to be using this voting app and how we see it affecting things in the future. Take it from here, Christina.
Well, thank you. I am the founder of a nonprofit organization called Free and Equal Elections. I realized at that time that there was a need to open up the electoral process, and the mission is to open the electoral process through education and collaborative action. So Free and Equal Elections leads national, state, and local efforts to transform the electoral system in the United States by hosting all-inclusive gubernatorial, presidential, and senatorial debates, organizing electoral reform symposiums. Last year, it evolved into a tour. Also, those tours support individuals running for office. And finally, creating our blockchain election system app to promote transparency and empower voters with information about all their candidate choices. We're really known today for our presidential debates. That was really the creation of Free and Equal Elections in 2008 when we hosted our first presidential debate at the Mayflower in Washington, D.C. And this is the first time historically any presidential debate was nationally televised, or has been, outside of the mainstream Commission on Presidential Debates. In 2012, we reached a lot of people worldwide, I guess over 1 billion, which is kind of a big number, but very humbling that so many people were engaged in that debate. And 16, we had Ed Asner, and a week from today, we'll be having our first presidential debate before the primary. We have 21 candidates confirmed. To dial back in, we are focusing on the blockchain app. It became clear to me that we do need to transform our voting system and bring about local transparency. And I'm learning very quickly how this blockchain app works, and I'm eager to learn more throughout the year.
Wonderful. And now there's not a whole lot of case law surrounding blockchain as far as court admissible evidence, et cetera, et cetera. So we're starting it off as a basic type of polling system where people can actually launch their own polls. And then the biggest thing is an informational portal where you can basically have free and equal information, because it's very difficult to find out information that's, I guess, accurate. So hopefully, we're hoping to build this kind of open repository for different candidate information that should really help with the discernment value in the voting system, because if people aren't educated, if voters aren't educated, then the voting system itself is not very secure. So what do you envision?
The election system app, powered by Nexus, is designed to promote transparency in the U.S. electoral process, inspire individuals to run for office, empower voters with information about their ballot system, and educate them on all of the choices. And so the version 1.0 features will include, starting off, database of every single candidate running for office: Democrats, Republicans, alternative party candidates, independents. We'll be targeting the congressional races first, because congressional races are far more important than the presidential race. Candidate details, bio, voting record, debate archives, campaign contributions, access, that is, requirements by jurisdiction, interactive candidate support tools, and whether we like politics or not, it's a duty for me to do this, and register to vote through the app section. So finally, the blockchain voting app, as I mentioned before, will transform our voting system and transparency to the electoral process. Future plans include integrating the app's voting functionality using alternative voting methods like instant runoff voting, ranked choice voting. That's spreading throughout the U.S. Approval voting, star voting. We aim to level the playing field by providing an informational, educational, empowering, inspiring, decentralized info hub beyond traditional social media, beyond platforms that can't be trusted.
Like I was mentioning earlier, to get it on a full global national level is going to take a while, but we need to prove the utility of it first. We're going to make the app somewhat generic with creating your polls themselves, so that if you want to have just your own local vote, you can utilize the app to start to basically just do your own little voting systems with, the Arizona state government with, different blockchain voting. I mean, we've talked to Dennis Kucinich and Ron Paul, and they were both really interested in the blockchain voting aspect. So as we get more of this, out of this proof of concept phase into the deployment phase and everything, there's going to be a lot of people that we believe are going to be helping support this. As it gets further along, we're going to be hopefully seeing more actual recognition of that as valid voting systems, and voter registrations and stuff. Right now, the KYC is just going to be basically by a phone number to make sure that you don't have double votes, but we will prove that further, through integrating voter registration systems. I mean, this application is going to be ongoing, obviously, and we're just getting this first proof of concept out to show people the utility of the blockchain voting. And it's obviously going to be expanding out from there. And it's a collaborative effort too. Part of, the decentralized nature of it is this voting system kind of improves and grows. We want it to become an ecosystem with many different actors, many different people, because there's a lot of people that are teaming up trying to solve this voting issue.
So blockchain is definitely an alternative way. We like to explore all different ways of being equal, but there is definitely a need to bring about integrity within our voting system, starting with the actual voting machines itself. And it goes beyond that.
Getting on the ballot is a huge thing. So, I mean, we're hoping that this, being free and equal, we'll be able to help level that a lot more. And we believe that this will help, especially that availability for candidates.
Did you know it takes over 800,000 signatures, 800,000 signatures to get on the ballot as an independent for president? It only takes 25,000 signatures to get on the ballot as a Democrat or Republican. 800,000 to run as an independent for president, only 25,000 for the These are unconstitutional. So it should be no different for alternative third-party candidates. These are, I see every candidate as an individual party labeled side, and that's the direction I foresee us going, and the blockchain ledger will help us achieve that.
Absolutely. Paul, did you want to make a
comment? Christina, thanks so much for the information you've given us so far. I think the first question that everyone wants to know is how far along in your application development are you?
Colin, is that something you could answer on that?
The MVP is basically just minimal candidate information and a basic polling system where, just like on Telegram or anything else, you'll be able to just issue a poll and have that voted and then have that concluded. And I
realize this might be a question that's better suited for Chuck. We've talked about the need for visibility into voting data, and blockchain will provide that. But you also touched on the fact that current voting machines full of software bugs and things like that, if you're going to develop an application built on top of a blockchain platform, that application is also going to need to be able to come under public scrutiny to ensure that its validity. Does that mean that the application that you develop will be open source, or will it be available for other organizations to use and available for other organizations to vet your software?
Yeah, I mean, we're planning on having it open source so that other people can vet the code. They can make sure there's no bugs, because independent verification is really important. Open source is just as important for the security as it is for the availability for other people and the peer auditing.
So we had a question here from one of our community members, and that's how is voter verification performed yet kept anonymous?
Right now, we're planning on doing it as a phone identification. So just building a simple SMS gateway where, we text you when you verify your phone number. And that's just a very, very basic form of KYC that we're going to be doing for the MVP. But obviously down the road, we would want to have voter verification done via, government APIs, things like that, if we're starting to get into actual voting for governments. Or, different types of KYC systems, in the future, because yes, that verification is really important. Now, the voter's identity does not have to be exposed, even by knowing the phone number. We're just making sure that, we have some form of unique identifier that can be associated with a single individual. I think that's not undoable, but that's why our MVP is going to be essentially SMS verified. And then, further down the road, we're going to obviously improve that. It's kind of going to be an ongoing effort.
Would I be right in saying that that kind of voter verification sits outside of the blockchain side of the technology? It's not, it's going to be done elsewhere.
Yeah, logical layer. So there's no personally identifying information that's going to be exposed. And when it's a logical layer database cluster, that means that it's something that's not directly associated. We got Chuck here.
Hey guys, sorry about that.
It's all good.
I had another meeting. How you guys doing?
So by the time you get to a government using this voting app for, a domestic election or a state election, we're most likely going to be plugging into their verification system in some way, shape, or form.
And so I'm really honored and excited to bring the two of you together. I'd hope the community, if they don't know much about you, Chuck, maybe you could briefly introduce yourself as well, if that's okay.
Sure, yeah. I have been a developer most of my life. I've been consistently developing front-end code, focusing on JavaScript and UI, front-end interfaces for about 22 years now. I guess my biggest contribution so far, my best is yet to come, but it has been the Shutterfly photo book application. I'm listed as a patent inventor on that. I also helped FedEx launch their first version of the FedEx Print Online in this purpose of trying to bring financial freedom to individuals. And I think that our political system is just plain broken. Anything that I can do to help that is the main reason that I'm here.
What we focus on with our use cases is making meaningful impacts with people, right? Things that are actually going to change things, right?
The plan that as I currently understand it is that we're going to, I think you have a list of what I would call requirements up on your website, and those don't look very difficult to fulfill. But I think the earlier we can get started with testing some of these things through, the more likely we are to be able to add some additional refinements. Because one of the goals that I would like to achieve with this is to demonstrate to anybody who encounters this new ways of voting.
My take is the system is broken. Well, let's just fix it. It's going to be some work, hard work, but once the train gets going, it's taking off, and you can hop on the train, you can drive the train like Colin and Chuck. It's going. There's no stopping it.
Are there any more questions from anybody before we conclude?
No, I don't have any more for today. Sounds like an exciting project. It perfectly aligns with not only Nexus's core values, but also just the use of blockchain in general.
Absolutely.
So on that note, I have added essentially the version 1.0 app features as initial cards in, and I expect to kind of work these cards, grant ownership, and start figuring things out as we kind of self-organize ourselves.
I mean, we're designing it to be something that other people can start to use, because we want to make it something people can look, touch, and feel, and experience themselves, so that they can see the utility for themselves of exactly how it works. And I think that's going to really start to drive a lot of it forward. So this app can be used, by you, if you want, to help, people down in Chile, or, help reforming some of these things. And this is just another tool that you guys now have to help, fix things a little bit wherever you live.
Right on. Yeah, that's definitely an alignment. I guess there's that idea of making it so that anybody can use it. We have to figure out, there's just a lot of details tied into that, right? Like the registration process, or how do we structure all this data? Where does it get stored? What does the framework look like? From my conversations that I've had with Colin, it sounds like a good portion of this functionality could probably be handled by the Nexus IO platform. So I think for me, it's just going to be a matter of learning what those API calls look like to kind of understand those structures. And I guess, de facto, Christina is our product owner. She basically makes all the decisions of what should and should not be a part of the end game, the product itself. And I would say, Colin, I'm going to nominate you as our developer technical architect person, and for now I can be Scrum Master.
All right. Well, does anybody else have any more questions before we conclude for Chuck or Christina?
Power is in our hands right here, and this is where we'll be directing everybody throughout the United States for presidential debates to go on and sign up with this blockchain app and get engaged, get involved, run for office, give back to your community, do something. Doesn't matter how big or little, just something. That's how we bring about true cultural change.